to actually see all of you, and it's, this is a real treat. Yeah, my work is done here. A couple, almost housekeeping. I don't want for anyone here to not know that when spring and summer come again, there's a really great eatery outside of town that is called Shackalicious, and Marley is a partner in that. And it's amazing, and it's such a great place for all ages. Like, you can have so much fun out there. Music, food, crazy.
I did not ask her to say that.
Also, there's a price of admission, and just so there's not a grand crush or you think, well, I can't because we gotta go to other First Fridays. Over here in the window behind Allison and Jane is my daughter, I'm pretty proud to say that. And while we're at it, so standing here by Jessica with the hoodie, there's Terry, my son. That's 2 of my 4. My guest book, so to speak, is that jar. And there's colorful papers, there's colorful pens, and you are invited. No, you're required to write me a note. Let me know you were here. It means a lot to me. You can say something nice, you can say nothing at all, fold it in interesting ways, and put it in the bowl when you're done, and then you will be allowed to depart. Paul, you cracked me. So, thank you all for coming to this. This is a real, it's actually kind of hard to articulate what it means for this many of my friends to show up in this way. Because I tend to kind of take my life and my work for granted. But having mounted this show here has shown me my work in a way I haven't seen it before. And what a great experience. So I've been playing with color for a long time, and it started with quilting. So there are 2 quilts that are on the order of 25 years old, a little bit less than that. They were 01, 02. And from these quilts came paintings. I was in a state at one period of time where I thought, what am I going to paint next? Well, you know, those quilts were really fun, and I think I want to paint the quilts. And so I undertook with watercolor on canvas, which is, it's kind of counterculture. You don't do that. But it seemed to be working, and I was enjoying it, and so I stuck with it. So it's evident that this quilt, this painting is based on this quilt, and that painting is based on that quilt. And a revisiting of something that I've done is a very interesting experience, because now I start to see it in a different way. So one of the things that is important to me that people know is that everything you see, with the exception of course of the quilts, which were printed fabrics when I was working with them, all of my paintings, I'm using the primaries. Earlier on, I was using 1 red, 1 blue, one yellow, and then a couple years in, I switched into a warm and cold of each. Warm and cold red, warm and cold blue, warm and cold yellow, and now the combinations really explode. So everything you see that I've painted, it's 3 colors. And that's the source of my fascination. The other source of fascination is what the pigments do, how they play together, and you'll really see that in some of the, especially landscapes that are in the hallway here on the other side of these 2 little walls. So the interactions of the pigments with each other, the pigments with water, and how they push each other around. You'll see a blue spot that has a red outline. How does that happen? It's not me. It's the paint and the water doing that, which is pretty fun. The quilts. In 01, 02, for a period of 3 months, I was party to the illness and death of my husband. So being party to something like that and needing to be on hand to be of service and to provide comfort and to make the most of whatever time is left, but without hovering and being a nuisance, I quilted. And I derive great pleasure from seeing these, and I want a special thanks to Jane for loaning that quilt back to me on a regular basis. The quilt on that wall, it wasn't very long before my husband died that I went to a quilt retreat, and I wasn't sure I should go because I could see he was failing a lot faster than they had projected. And a friend of mine said, no, you go to your quilt retreat. Stu and I will come and look after Al. So I'm at this quilt retreat and I'm working on this thing, and I tell you, it takes time to put a quilt together, and I'm kind of smashing it together. There came a point on the Sunday afternoon of that weekend retreat where this quilt is surrounded, it's on a table, group of tables, and women all around. And I don't even know how many hands were working on that quilt, but it's a lovely element of it. The quilt itself, and I don't think I've ever made a quilt that's done this before, but that particular quilt is, the fibers are deteriorating. And when I first saw that, I thought, well, okay, I'm gonna have to fix that. And someday I probably will, just to preserve it, but at the same time, with its history of that time in my life and my husband's life, my kid's dad's life, I don't know, it's emblematic for me in that way. So you can see where, and that's the story of that. I think I've kind of said this already, but maybe I'll say it in a slightly different way, which is that everything that you see that I've done, I'm playing. I'm just being a kid. To play with color, to play with paint, and the fussier these pieces are, the ones over here on the wall where Kevin is, and the smaller ones on the, it's a plinth, right? The fussiness of those suits me so well. And those who know me as a wild and crazy might find that surprising, but I don't know, what can I tell you? To represent those two quilts in the paintings was a way of revisiting that wonder and joy. I mean, I would have the experience when I was quilting as I'm pushing fabric through the sewing machine, waves of joy. It's like, man, I just love pushing fabric through a sewing machine. I don't know. And so to reproduce the work and represent it, like they're representations, but they're representations. And there's interest for me in that. And I didn't initially do the drawings. The drawings came a few years later. So it was a process of, maybe these aren't done. So if you can imagine these paintings without the line drawings, and if you haven't already been up close and personal, you'll find that those line drawings are not only representational, but they're also stitches. And I just want everybody to know that every stitch you see represents 2 stitches. And that was, kill me now if I ever think I'm gonna do that again. But I thought, okay, so quilts, usually, not always, but they're frequently on beds. Quilts provide comfort, they provide warmth. If they're on a bed, there's also people that are either on them or under them, or animals. And yes, there is a cat in every quilt or every painting. This one's got more than one. And so thinking about that, because this quilt belongs to Jane, it made sense knowing that Jane who works with the street community in Edmonton, one of the ways that Jane looks after herself is after work she crawls into bed with her animals. At least that's the story I've been telling myself. And so you'll see Jane there, you'll see the dog, you'll see 3 cats, and that's the story of that one. This one here, I called it the end of an era, a cuddling couple, and that would be me now. Then on the other side of the wall down there, the family quilt, none of you can see it from here, you'd have to go into the hallway to see it. You can do that if you want, you can get up and move around. That's the family bed. It is it's a menagerie of people. It's tanglies. And of course there's a cat. And then at the end is more representative of the life I'm living now. The tiny, perfect geometrics. There's something so satisfying about that detailed work, and I've said something about that already, but the precision is a way of self-regulating. It gives me joy. I find them beautiful, and I think when I do something and I find it beautiful, that's a charmed life I'm living. The embellishment on paper and on the canvases is a kind of playful rebellion. Like, as I said earlier, like, who does that? I'm not sure it's allowed. So there's, the contradiction, and there's some exuberance in there as well. Now the landscapes, mostly out there, there's I think 4 out here, and then there's 2 others here. And the similarities are limited in that, yes, they're landscapes, but they're not all the same. It's play. One of the things, and you'll see this in my artist statement, handwriting is something that I do, and calligraphy, because I didn't have a choice as a kid. We all had to write beautifully, and that's what calligraphy means, is beautiful writing. And so as a prairie girl, I love that long straight line of the horizon. So representing the grasses through lettering, you can try to read it. People do try to read it. I would tell you what it says, if I knew. I can tell you, generally speaking, it's positive thoughts. And there's memories. So the landscapes in the hallway, the 2 that are on the wall that I can see, I made a trip to Saskatoon in the fall, and on my way back, I thought, I'm gonna come a different way. And it was a really cloudy day. I drove through 2 or 3 hours of fog, and then I got lost. Fortunately, I found one really great scene, not that I was looking for it. I was actually looking for Ponoka. I thought I'd go visit a friend, because, you come from Saskatoon to Red Deer, you gotta go that way, and Ponoka's over there, right? So, lateral drift is about getting lost, and to have found a scene that demanded that I paint it was, that's a treat for me. Now, I'll finish. No, there's one other thing I'll do. I'll talk about before I finish. I made reference to this earlier on, how to see all my work in this setting all together, I'm learning things about my work and about myself. And that's a surprise to me. Don't I know it all already? Anyway, so it's been very satisfying to have the work here. Lovely to work with Marley in the city. It's been just a lovely experience. And it's a fine thing to gain new understandings of your work. And that is something too that you can be thinking about when you are writing me a note, is what did you see, or what you saw, what you felt, what you observe about this body of work. and what it says to you. So the common threads among my work, the color palette, I mean, surely I knew that all of these things go together, but I didn't somehow, I don't know. Call it myopia. I'm enjoying the fact that there's cohesion. And I'm also learning in this experience that yes, my work is valid, and yes, my work has value. And that was never obvious to me. So, this experience, and especially with folks like you coming and validating me just by being here, that's a big deal to me. Speaking of the show title, Fervent Patience, a treatise on longing. Like, honestly, when you propose a show, they want a title. What's it gonna be called? So I threw some words together and thought, that'll do. And then I had to think about what that meant. And what did it mean then? Well, that's kind of beside the point, because what does it mean now? And so, let's come back here. Fervent patience, I mean, somebody said they're kind of contradictory terms, but in fact, I have been it took a lot of patience to do all that stitching. Let's just start there. Hi, Robin. Hey, you, Coco. But the longing part and the patience, the longing patience, I realize in doing this that I have longed for this for a long time. And I've worked on this show for 18 months. I'm really glad it's hung and it's got out of my hair, so to speak. And also in that same 18 months, I've been working on a really deeply satisfying and delicious relationship. And so, welcome to this part of my life. And yeah, I'm just gonna step out here and let you know that the relationship that I've been enjoying is with my sweetheart, Kim Boyd, who also framed a whole lot of this work. He's hiding around the corner. You can stay there, that's okay. And was instrumental in hanging it. And so here I am with longings coming true. And I appreciate you all being here.